Redfin are starting a commission-only model. Now, guys, this is really, really fascinating. We've obviously seen a lot of shake-up in the real estate industry, or we're expecting to see it post this price collusion lawsuit, the Sitzer Burnett trial, which has potentially changed how commission structure is going to work. Price collusion, obviously, is what they're saying is 5%, which is charged by all agents, and a split that is given to a cooperating agent, usually 2.5% each way. That can vary. That is what it works like in my industry. That we think, and I think, sorry, is going to change the way real estate works, and the broker agent model from being that self-employed agent who effectively earns quite a lot of money and is a self-employed person where they are paid on the commission that they make and they're not paid on anything else. Now, Redfin has been a very different model, which is more how I think that the industry is going to go. Now, it works very similarly to how brokerages work in the UK. Just to give you a kind of rundown, in the UK, you have big companies. The company I used to work for was called Foxtons. They would have property managers. Property managers. They'd have managers of the offices who would go out and do meetings with potential sellers, have those meetings and pitch the company to them. So each office would have a set of listings. Now, in the US, that is different. The individual is going out and taking on the listing. However, with this, you'd almost have a separate set of agents who would work and just try and get as many buyers through the door as possible. They'd usually be representing both sides, both the seller and the buyer, which in my opinion is quite a conflict of interest. But your job would be to make cold calls to get as many people booked through showings to see that property as you can to try and sell the home. Now, instead of that 5% that it would cost, we at the time charged 2.5% fully to sell the property, and that was probably the most expensive as a brokerage goes. A lot of other brokerages would price cut, they would get the price down sometimes to 1%. And so it works similarly to how Redfin works, which is that the agents and the managers of these offices are paid a salary. Now, you would normally get a percentage of the commission that you are doing the deals of. Maybe that's 15% and not the 70 to 90% of what an agent here would get, and their broker would take a small cut of that. So Redfin was a game changer in real estate, and it has done very well in certain markets. And it's a very similar model where you have listings that are taken on in a certain area, and you have salary paid agents who are earning the salary, so they have that guarantee. However, they're going out and trying to show this property as many times as possible and getting a very small commission rate. Now, Redfin have just announced that they are going to do a new model, which is commission only. So an agent can turn around and, instead of conforming to that usual model which Redfin would have, agents can actually choose to be on a commission-based model. So they wouldn't get paid a salary, they would get paid on the commission that they earned, and that apparently is going to be 30 to 40% of the commission, and the commission split could be as high as 79 to 90% for the agent. So it's kind of giving a hybrid model between the two. So it's an interesting one where obviously we think that I think, sorry, that the model for most brokers is going to go in the opposite direction, where it's going to become more like that, UK model. The agents are going to be paid a salary. You're going to have big companies come in, such as the companies with Foxtons. But this is obviously a shift the other way. So what's interesting, I think, is that it kind of is a hybrid between the two models. You've always got the company is still listing the properties. However, the agent who's trying to go out and sell them is really eating what they kill, as some people would say. They are getting the opportunities to sell this property, and so they're getting fed those leads, as we were in the UK. If a buyer calls and says, hey, I've seen this listing, I'd like to go and see it, that agent, instead of getting paid the salary, can earn 30 to 40% of the commission that the company generates. If it is a agent who is going out and finds their own lead. So they go out and they find a buyer themselves and they say, look, would you like to come and have a look at my property? It's not come through Redfin, then they're earning 70 to 90%. So it's a really interesting one where I think almost an agent probably who's more experienced, not the agent who's joining, but the agent that's more experienced can potentially earn that 90%, but is still getting given leads, which doesn't really happen in our brokerage model, to still earn that 30 to 40%. Obviously, the downside for them is they're not getting paid that salary. But what also works very interestingly, I think, for Redfin is that they are cutting down their costs as a company. Now, obviously, normally they are having paid employees because they're giving them the salary. They have to give certain benefits because of that. Now, they can now have effectively consultants who are self-employed. However, they're getting leads that are coming into the company, so they're generating more eyeballs on the actual Redfin model. However, they are still getting a large percentage of the commission that they are generating that. And they also have these agents who are going out and spreading the word of Redfin. So I think this works in more luxury markets potentially. In my market in Los Angeles, the West Side, we don't see a huge amount of Redfin. I think that there are a lot of markets in the US where that price being paid, I think it's maybe about 2% as opposed to the 5%. The seller really sees the value in that. A lot of people who are selling their homes in the more luxury market don't necessarily, or they see the model where these buyers have their own agent, and so therefore they will go with the traditional model because it may generate them more income. They may get more than that 3% difference in a sales price because of this experienced person who is trying to get the biggest price possible to sell the property. So I think that this could be a situation where some of those more expensive agents, or sorry, experienced agents at Redfin can almost play the game from both sides. So they can go after these situations and turn around to a seller and say, look, I'm going to do it for 2%, but I'm still going to go out as a selling agent would traditionally and find as many people as I can to get through the property because it benefits me in getting me more commission. However, we're also going to have this property marketed through the Redfin system and try and get those people through your property as well, where we get paid less money, but you're still going to see the benefits of that. So I think that this is going to be interesting. I think Redfin can be clever with that because they don't have the price collusion because they effectively are doing both sides of the transaction. So they're charging an amount which is stated. It's not like, okay, I'm going to give this much percentage to another agent just to bring me that buyer. So I think this could be a change up. Well, it's going to be interesting to follow and see if this model takes off, if it fails. And I think that that is, again, going to be very market dependent. But I think it's a really interesting way of looking at the current climate in regards to the real estate industry and where those changes are going to happen, and effectively getting ahead of that change and kind of baking that model that has been traditional into what they're doing. So I'd love to get your guys' thoughts on this. I'm going to try and follow this as closely as possible. So I'll give you guys updates regularly. This is being recorded in December 2023, just to give you that context. But as I said, I'd love you guys to write a comment below. Let me know any questions. If you disagree with what I say, I'd really like to hear that as well. I'm going to be back with another video tomorrow. I hope you're good wherever you are. Speak to you all soon. Goodbye.